beginning of my talk is 4 years ago, people cared very marginally, but now the human experience of the product, whatever the product may be. Right now I'm working for electronic health records with Obamacare, but I worked in food and travel before. It's just how people engage with any kind of interface is becoming important. It's becoming a key market differentiator. Apple figured this out very early, and everybody else is, and other companies have as well, but they figured it out early and capitalized heavily on it. Yeah. Other companies are following the example. It is a successful market strategy, copy what works. But as our technology becomes more complex and multifaceted, we will need people to filter and organize the way we engage with this technology more than ever because it is so diverse.
I agree completely. As the technology becomes more complex, we need to simplify the interface. And Erin, are you seeing the same thing in robotics?
Yes, absolutely. The key differentiator now for most industrial robot arms is how easy it is to program and set up. So the problem was you would have employees go through hours and hours of integrator training with an industrial robot arm, learn how to program it, set it up, and a company would bring this person in-house, and they might leave, they might move, they have no idea how to operate. And that's why Baxter's value proposition was no programming. Like you can set it up by moving the arm around from place to place, and very easy to teach somebody how to set it up and get it going and use it, and then reconfigure it when they have to. Because a lot of contract manufacturers and manufacturers in the U.S. are only running a line or product for a couple hours, days, or weeks. It's not a line that's going to go for years. So they need to reduce the cost of what it takes to set up, and that's all UX and usability. And Baxter would be able to do more, though, if it did have a few more layers of options and settings. And for the robot arms that can't be moved around by a person, but does need a little programming, where intelligence and vision and perception can step in as half of the equation, and then easy UX UI to set up the other half of what it does and then how it does it. For example, what if you could show the robot the product, and then it does a 3D scan of it and knows to always look for that no matter where it is in space and move it somewhere. So UX is entirely the competitive differentiator in industrial robot arms right now.
And Alex, I want you to address this, but because you've created, Alex actually is the CEO of a hardware company, as you saw, Access. We saw a little demo of it. Now, how are you kind of setting up a UX around, I know that you're looking at getting an API out for those of us that want to develop to your platform.
Yeah, I'll echo what's been said here, which is that the in our sensor and in a lot of sensors that are being created, there's a huge amount of information, up to 2,000 samples per second for each modality, for brain data, heart data, muscle data, 3D accelerometer data. And the real challenge is if we do our jobs correctly, people don't even know they're wearing a sensor. They basically the interface has to be completely transparent. And I think that there's a lot of stuff out there where in this last generation of products where the interface is really clunky, and there's just the value between you may be getting a lot of raw data, and it's this data porn effect where you get to kind of just stare at a screen with a lot of numbers and say, oh yeah, that's nice, and maybe that's telling me something and maybe it's not. But really, I think in the next generation of products, we'll have things that basically induce behavior change and do it in the simplest way possible, so that effectively you just get a nudge in the right direction at the right time, without seeing any numbers, without seeing any data, without seeing any graphs at all. And I think it's the simplification of this that's going to make a difference.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a question. It seems like both interoception and the anthropomorphization of robots sort of has to do with how we reflect ourselves with technology. And then the UX side is sort of how we analyze the behaviors that come out of those reflections, in a sense. So what would you say is the opposite or the other pole of the uncanny valley?
That's interesting. No, entirely frightening.
Yeah.
Right.
Dehumanization.
I'm thinking a Will Smith movie.
Cloning.
Could be totally useful and functional for machines to dock amongst themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, to perform functions that we don't need to keep telling them to do.
So the uncanny valley certainly relates to, there's a funny, if you search ode to the uncanny valley, there's a lot of photos of humanoid robots that just look strange. And it's a phenomenon that's entirely perceived by humans. And when I was at iRobot, many people refer to Roombas as their pets, or they have some anthropomorphic sense with the robot. And I was at iRobot in 2006 as a mechanical engineering intern working on the big change between, the big difference between the 2005 design change and the design change that launched in 2007 or 2008. And the ID guy was there saying, like, oh, it looks like a face, I gotta get rid of it. Oh, it looks transformer, I gotta get rid of it. No. And the people were doing it anyway. So it's just human.
How many people name their cars? Okay, we do this, right? Yeah. It's a human UX thing. Right, so go ahead.
Yeah, it's something funny that humans do, and it's okay to look sterile, but it's not okay to look creepy. It depends.
I would actually like to add a little more into the uncanny. There's very specific. Uncanny is actually a medical word that has been now used to describe things we don't like or look strange. It comes from a very specific Jungian term. It refers to the fact that some mentally ill people, though they appear to be the people you know, like your mom, because of a mental illness, the person that you knew is actually no longer there. So there has to be a very high degree of verisimilitude to the actual person. So if you put, a banana and two pears that looks like a face, that's okay. The problem is when it's trying to be too human, yet its behavior is not human-like. That is the problem with the uncanny. Which is one of the reasons why zombie movies are so interesting to a lot of people.
Alex, do you have anything to say about zombie movies? Are there any other questions? Blaine,
I was wondering where comfort toys are going to go. For example, like babies. Some people are talking about robots that are able to move, or they're able to change temperatures, and they give them to, for example, women in some of the elderly homes. I was wondering what kind of issues are on that, or if that's being really heavily developed. Then we could probably save other comfort toys for another day.
So I do know of two products. One is the Pero, which is a robotic seal in Japan, which elderly people like to pet. One person though did throw it into a bathtub with water, so it stopped working. And Symbian Brazil at MIT Labs. I mean, this might be old news, but I know she was working on this tactile teddy bear that would move and contour itself to kind of respond to your touch. And I think that's a really nice use case. Babies might get to the uncanny valley world. iRobot made a very ugly baby called My Real Baby, and it didn't really sell well at Hasbro. And it kind of, when I was there were My Real Baby parts kind of scattered around as kind of a joke to how they no longer touch robot toys with a 10-foot pole. That was a while ago though. And I think there is a use case for having companionship. And if that helps somebody out, I think, go for it.
Actually, we saw one of our companies we advised, they raised a $4.5 million DARPA grant to do toys because they wanted the sensors from the kids to make sure their health was okay. The reason DARPA put money into it without equity is they want to be able to sense early trends for flu and other things. So they'd rather put them in toys. Be able to tell when there's a medical health issue. And we were at the robotics meetup at Microsoft, where the big manufacturer, biggest one in the world, said the real area we're targeting is replacement of a lot of the people in hospitals, and specifically not convalescent hospitals, for elderly, because they don't have to worry about elder abuse. They have people that they connect with. That's why that movie they dropped about that. That's a serious trend in Asia, if you go to Asia, because of the aging population. And they're really seriously replacing a lot of the people they don't trust, the low-level attendees, with the people that they know, or with devices that people connect with, and they can have communication where there's video and audio to the people they know and love, and they can do sensor-based things to make sure if they're having an episode, they get help right away. So it's actually not just a people replacement, it's a better health outcome from their point of view. I think that,
Yeah, and thank you, Kamel, for that. And actually that kind of brings up one of the last points and one of the last questions that I want to ask of our panelists tonight, because it's a really interesting time for UX. As we said when we started, right, in 2004, the first white paper came out that a good design and user experience gives you an unfair, not an unfair, but gives you an advantage in the stock market. And now we have this user experience, these user experience inputs and devices that are coming from things like the military-industrial complex and industrial applications that are coming into the everyday use because the cost of these devices is going down. And we're seeing things like Skylanders that is $1 billion property because it's got a connected toy to a game. And where are these Skylander kids going to go? The next level is going to be, I fear to say it, comfort toys and all these other things. And it's just a really interesting time for us. So the last question that I'd like to ask the panel is, you know, your industries are so incredible and emerging today. And actually last night, on a Sunday night, I was in a Best Buy and I started shooting pictures of the wearables division that Best Buy had. It's phenomenal what it was over a year ago. So where do you think your industries are going in 3 to 5 years, let alone the future? Alex, do you want to-
Sure. Right now, we see the price and size reduction significantly in wearables, and there's this Cambrian explosion of these technologies at the moment. And right now, they're all sort of devices, but probably in 3 to 5 years, they're all going to be embedded in everything. So hats, shirts, socks, underwear, there will be options to have sensors and embedded technologies which will give seamless and transparent feedback. That's my best guess.
Okay, no comfort toys, but comfort underwear.